How's it going, everyone? So for today's video, I want to talk about how you can drastically improve your sound by doing 5 simple things. Before I get into that, if you like the content that I'm making, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and leave some comments. It would help a lot. I like to start by defining what a good trumpet sound is. Now, of course, this is a very subjective and opinion-based thing, so I'm strictly making my opinions based on what historically and traditionally has been considered a good trumpet sound. And I've narrowed it down to 3 fundamental things. Number one being that the sound must be properly supported with air and it must be full. Number two, the sound must be centered and in tune. And number three, the sound must be resonant. The first step that we can take to help us achieve our ideal trumpet sound is to simply listen. The great American composer Aaron Copland wrote a book titled What to Listen For in Music, where he outlines 3 different listening planes. If you'd like to know more about that, you're more than welcome to go ahead and read the book. But essentially what Copland is talking about is the art of active listening and truly listening. Oftentimes, we just sort of listen and treat music as background. And I've noticed that with a lot of young players, they might listen to a lot of trumpet players, but they're not really paying attention to the details and the nuances of what's going on. The more active listening that you do, the more you start to develop and define what type of sounds you like, and you start to refine and define your own personal sound concept. Really pay attention to more details in each player's sound. So for example, in the orchestral world, Bud Herseth is going to play principal trumpet completely different than a Phil Smith. In the jazz world, a Miles Davis is going to play and have a different sound concept, completely different than a Freddie Hubbard, for example. And as I'm listening to these different players, I'm picking up on what is it that I like about their sound, how it is that they're approaching. To take it up to another level, now I'm at the point where I'm researching what kind of equipment did these people use to help them achieve that sound? How did the equipment aid them in achieving that sound? The more clarity that you have as to what type of sound it is that you want, the easier it'll be to project and get that sound. So once you have a clear idea of what type of sound you're going for, step number 2 would be to practice long tones. Now, this is a piece of advice that almost every seasoned trumpet player will give you, and it's because it works. When you practice long tones, I recommend to use a drone, have a tuner, aim for a centered sound, and aim for proper and a precise intonation. If you're not in tune and if you're not centered, you're not going to get a pleasant tone. So that's number 1. Always aim for being in tune and aim for a centered sound. I love playing with drones. If you don't know what drones are, they are these just kind of like background notes, and you try to match pitch with them. I'll link some below in the description. Also, if you're practicing long tones and you're noticing that you're getting a fuzzy sound, analyze and try to figure out how to fix the problem. Maybe it's a lack of air support. Maybe it's loose corners. Maybe it's something wrong with the vibration and you need to do a little bit of lip buzzing to clear up the fuzz. Maybe your instrument is dirty, your mouthpiece is dirty. Just always always, whatever exercise it is that you're practicing, you need to get into the habit of playing and trying to always play with a beautiful sound. Always try to play with the most beautiful sound that you can, and that includes long tones. If you're playing just a long tone, try to get the most pure, in tune, perfectly centered sound that you possibly can. After you've practiced your long tones and now you're getting a clear, clean, in tune, centered, and properly supported sound, step number 3 would be to practice lyrical music. A lot of times in our practice routines, we do a lot of technical studies, we do a lot of urban single tonguing, lip flexibilities, and we skip out on lyrical playing. There is a reason why Arben has an entire section in the back of his book dedicated to lyrical playing. The art of phrasing is what he calls it. It is so important that you take time every single day to play something lyrical, whether it's a ballad, a some sort of lyrical etude, or something along those lines. It's really important for you to give yourself an opportunity to play music that's going to force you to focus on your tone and phrasing and just making the most beautiful sound that you possibly can. This is one of the reasons why I love Ellen Vizuti's, I believe it's volume 3, so much of his method book, because everything is in that book, even though there are technical studies, everything is very melodic and very musical. And when you play those exercises, you can make music out of them and force yourself. It motivates and pushes you to want to make everything sound beautiful. So I can't stress that enough. Make sure that you're playing something lyrical and melodic and beautiful every single day. That's going to force you to really emphasize on your tone and sound development. So play something lyrical every single day. The fourth thing that you can do to drastically help improve your sound is to play along with recordings. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you're playing along with great recordings. So recordings of great players, truly great recordings of the legends such as Wynton Marsalis, Maurice Andre, etc., etc. Now, this is something that is pretty common within the jazz world. There are so many nuances that you can pick out just from playing along with recordings. If you focus enough and you're listening intensely enough, you can pick out a lot of details about how much air distribution and air intensity, etc., that a player does to achieve certain sounds. So playing along with recordings is something that I encourage you all to do, especially in today's YouTube era where everything is so accessible via Spotify, YouTube, and you can slow down the recording, speed it up, whatever. Take advantage of those of the technology and the access to these great recordings and great tools. So play along with recordings. My fifth tip for improving your sound would be to record yourself. As a matter of fact, just record everything. We have our phones and it's so easy to record and get a pretty decent recording quality. Just record everything. Record all your performances, record rehearsals, record your practices. Just record everything and constantly self-analyze, evaluate, compare and contrast, fix, take mental notes, take physical notes, do whatever it is that you need to do, but always record yourselves. One thing about recordings is that they don't lie. It's documented. You hear all the mess ups, you hear all the good, you hear all the bad, and it's just a really, really great tool to kind of self-analyze and just teach yourself. Now, to conclude, I think that at some point we do find our musical voice and we do find our sound. And even then, just because we find our sound, it doesn't mean that we stop working on our sound. I feel like sound and tone is something that a musician always keeps developing, evolving, and you just always keep maturing and growing. It's just like it's your musical voice, right? So it makes sense that you always keep developing your musical voice, which is your sound, is a big part of that. And I think that one of the biggest things to keep maturing and keep growing is to just keep listening. Not only listening to recordings, but going out and checking out live performances. One of the things that we often don't take into consideration is that when you're listening to a recorded performance or a recording, you're listening to that musician's best. You're listening to their best take, their best whatever. And one of the beauties about going to a live performance is that you don't always get the musician's best. Sometimes they might have an off day, and sometimes they might have a little bit of fuzz and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, I think it just, by going to live performances, it gives you a more realistic view of perspective of what a great sound is and what it sounds like live. And it just kind of, for me, hearing a great player, my first experience listening to a great player sound not so great at a live performance just kind of helped me realize, like, hey, everyone's human. Sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days. And and I think the really great players obviously have more good days than not. So but yeah, I highly encourage you, as soon as this whole COVID thing is over with, go check out as many live performances as you can. Live streams are cool, but listening to a sound in a live setting, I don't think there's anything that replaces that. Not even close. So highly recommend to just keep listening, keep going to live concerts, going to live performances. And I think that's a big part of the growing process and the developmental process. I know I've been playing trumpet for 25 years, and I'm still listening a lot, and I hear a lot of young kids, like 9-10-year-old kids with amazing sounds, and I hear new college graduates every year coming out of these universities just sounding so amazing, and it's so inspiring, and it's so refreshing, and I'm constantly just absorbing all of it, and it just motivates me, it inspires me, it gives me different perspectives and different possibilities. So yeah, keep listening, don't ever stop listening. Check out live music, check out live performances, and I think that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helped you out. If you do anything in particularly that helps you with sound production, I would love to hear about it. Hit me up if you have any questions, and peace.